The first thing you'll do when you sit down to play The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim is not get up from your couch for about 5 days. It's just that easy to lose yourself in this world.
We drink to our youth, to days come and gone, for the age of aggression is just about done. We're the children of Skyrim and we fight all our lives, and when Sovngarde beckons, every one of us dies.
Like many a gamer out there, to me, a new Elder Scrolls game is a big deal. I absolutely loved the last game, Oblivion, and its open, free-roaming role-playing. So it's pretty exciting to be back in the land of Tamriel for a whole new adventure.
Set a couple of hundred years after the events of Oblivion, in Skyrim you play a Dragonborn, a person with the unique ability to absorb a dying dragon's soul and transform it into a mystical power. It's been a long time since dragons have been seen in the world, and most Nords think they're just a myth.
What was that? It's nothing. Carry on.
But all that quickly changes when one dramatically appears just as you're about to be executed.
We're escaping, Headhart. You're not stopping us this time.
From here on in, you set out to learn more about your bloodline and your cloud of destiny.
Unlike previous Elder Scrolls where you'd fuss over your character's stats, here you start as more of a blank slate and develop your character over time. But you do get to choose a race to play as, which will influence a few starting perks, as well as play around with all sorts of sliders to build the look you want. Naturally, I chose to play as a Dark Elf with a future of stealth and magic in mind.
I went for an Argonian, called him Velocibadger.
Yeah, of course you did.
Because he kind of looks like a velociraptor.
I get it.
Yeah. Such freedom in this game, though. In my first few hours, Hex, I'd killed some friendly hunters, fell off a cliff, raised the dead, angered an entire village by attacking its chicken.
Careful!
And caught a bee, to which I sold for a hard-earned gold piece.
Good doing business with you.
I went exploring and collected flowers and butterflies. And this is the thing, your experience will be different to anyone else's. All because of the wonderful open nature of this game. You're thrown into the world with only a few things to guide you to your next objective, and you can ignore that entirely if you choose and just go off into the wild where adventure will find you.
So many quest Hex, so many, I have to do all of them. Even 30 hours into this game, I still feel like I've barely accomplished anything. You can also pick up quests called miscellaneous quests from just generally talking to NPCs in the village or reading a book. Every NPC is a chance for adventure, and these quests very quickly get out of hand and are often more interesting than they appear.
Your reward is waiting for you, mortal. Further down. Into the bowels.
Bethesda have said they focus more on telling one big story this time, as opposed to deep, long-winded faction storylines. We haven't got far enough into this big game to figure out if that's the right way to go or not, but we've loved the questing so far. I was a bit disappointed after how well that moral choice stuff worked in Fallout to see not really much of that in this game at all though, Hex.
She will pay the price for her treason.
It's tough to play the bad guy here.
I don't know, Barger. I mean, Elder Scrolls games have never really done that thing with overt moral choice where it's written into the story. I mean, it's more about the actions that you take in the world and the role-playing that takes place up here.
You have committed crimes against Skyrim and her people. What say you in your defense?
Well, you can totally play an evil character if you want to. Just join the Dark Brotherhood. This game is about giving you objectives and then leaving it up to you how you want to go about completing them, either with honorable actions or being sneaky, thieving, murderous, and deceitful.
I've yet to have a giant kill any of my livestock.
We played this on 360, and you will notice some bland textures here and there, some jaggies, very simple shadows and lighting, but you do get over this pretty quick, and for an open world game, it is just beautiful. As you look off into the distance and you see majestic mountains and sexy castles, and then it starts to snow.
Sexy castles?
So sexy. You fall in love with this world, which is especially eerie at night. And those dungeons too are so well crafted that you never feel like, oh, I've seen this area before.
Amazingly, Skyrim makes Oblivion feel claustrophobic. I mean, obviously there's a compromise and a fine balance reached with the visuals. With a game this big and open, some corners have to be cut. But Oblivion fans will definitely notice a big step up over that game. And I'm sure the PC version will look even better, especially once the modders get their hands on it.
And most importantly, this world feels less static than Bethesda's previous games. I especially liked the way characters move and talk to you. You'll walk into a room and people will be having dinner, or they might even be having a quest-related conversation that you're barging in on. Characters' eyes will follow you and acknowledge you, and if you try to interrupt them while they're talking, sometimes they just chuck a tantrum.
Not now. Not now.
Irileth tells me you came from the Western Watchtower?
Tell him what you told me about the dragon.
Not now.
They also get quite upset if you mess with their cutlery.
Watch what you're doing. I'm still trying to figure out why Skjor let you in the first place.
I also really liked that they got rid of Oblivion's weird paused game portrait conversations. I mean, this system is so much more believable.
Yeah, and it looks even better in the third person, which is still a bit impractical when it comes to fighting or collecting loot and roaming the world, but it's definitely been improved since the last game. I also like the bards everywhere and their songs. Well, most of their songs.
Our hero claims a warrior's heart. I tell you,
25 gold well spent.
The dialogue all has this undertone of humour and cheekiness to it, and while I could have done with a few more voice actors in the game, all the towns are just so wonderful to explore. And I'm so glad you can once again buy a house and have somewhere to safely leave all your excess gear.
Plus, somewhere to store all of my troll heads.
They make it so tempting to break into other people's houses too, just to see what you can find. I'm really glad they've replaced the tumbler lock-picking system from Oblivion with the more realistic picking mechanic from Fallout. Plus, they've made it even harder. You snap those lockpicks so quickly on harder locks.
There are so many improvements over Oblivion, but I think the biggest one is the leveling system. Many people dislike the monster level scaling system that was in Oblivion, where they're always close to your level, but in Skyrim, it's more like Fallout 3. You can now come across an enemy that's just too high a level for you, so you'll need to pause and potion like crazy, or just flee for your life. It's good to get hit with a tough battle now and then.
This is so much better, and I still can't take down those mammoths and their giant guards, Bajo. It's just so scary watching them chase you over the countryside. I think this will stop people from burning through the main storyline too quickly too, because you really need to take the time to improve your skills in order to progress.
Yeah, and I really like the way they've changed the leveling system for your character. The more you use a skill, cast a certain magic, sneak about, use a weapon type, or get hit wearing a type of armor, the more that specific skill will level up, which pushes along your overall XP bar. Eventually, you level up and you're given 1 point which you can put into one aspect of one of those trees.
It completely does away with the need for underlying attributes like intelligence or strength, because it's all about mastering those skills by doing those things out in the world. It's such a relief to just jump into an RPG and play the way you want to, knowing the game will reward you for what you like doing.
The beauty of this system is you can just look at your skill tree, which are just beautiful to get into the way it looks up at the sky, and you can see which parts of the game you're leaning towards, and it helps you understand your own character. Let's talk about the combat though, Hex. It has been improved, and I never tired of it, but it still feels clunky to me, like it did in Oblivion and Fallout. There's just a lot of walking backwards and flailing, you know? The hitboxes for enemies are a bit too big in certain situations, and the whole move a direction and swing motion is something that I just think could have been done a bit better.
Yeah, the first-person melee is always a bit of a challenge because you don't have great spatial awareness. I think that's why I prefer to play as a ranged character using archery or spells. But melee is still pretty satisfying. There's a real thud to strikes and blocks, and I love the new slow-motion critical kills. They make you feel like a badass. Being able to favourite items or abilities to a quick pop-up menu on the D-pad is so useful too. You can switch weapons or chug a potion without having to bring up the full menu system.
The menus in Oblivion were actually what stopped me playing that game, because they were an abomination, but it's so good that they're all improved here, especially the inventory system. It doesn't have a junk filter option, but just flipping in and out of it and changing gear up works well.
It's still not perfect and it takes some getting used to, but it is definitely better, yeah. I liked the new map because it's so much easier to check out the geography of the world and understand where you are in relation to everything. Another influence from Fallout is the inclusion of companions. Along the way, you'll meet a variety of characters who'll come questing with you and carry gear for you and watch your back in combat. They don't have horses though, so if you've got one, you're gonna have to wait for them to catch up. Come on.
Nice of you to show up. I love how the horses just get in there with the combat. They die so easy though. I was so sad the first time my horse died. Need some horse armor. I was even sadder when my first companion died.
You still took her stuff though, right?
Yeah.
Another enhancement over Oblivion is the added layer of crafting that's now in the game. You can carry a pickaxe and mine veins of ore that you find, take that back to town, smelt it, forge gear, temper it and sell it on or use it. I found myself spending ages just making stuff.
Yeah, I could blacksmith for days, but there's always someone using the equipment. Get off.
All right then.
Alchemy is back and involves mixing a bunch of ingredients, which also include bugs that you can collect around the world.
Ah, the hours I've lost hunting for Nirnroot on the banks of rivers and stream, Barjo. But I really enjoy the enchanting as well. When you find a piece of magical gear, you'll need to destroy it to learn that enchantment. On top of that, you'll need a soul gem and an item you want to imbue with magic. I can see the potential to create all sorts of really useful magical gear.
And it's great that each of these different crafting things have their own massive tech trees now too, so you can really get into it. But we should talk about the dragons, which are a huge part of this game, dragons. Throughout your journey, you'll come across ancient runes that teach you what are called shouts. These are special powers that only Dragonborn can use. But in order to actually equip these powers, you'll need the souls of dragons. And this means, of course, having to kill them. It is a bit silly that they just land next to you and let you hack away at them and then fly off randomly, but it is undeniably exciting the way they swoop around and the screen shakes and the rumble noise.
Oh, it's so exciting. And, you know, lifting your shield isn't really going to do much against a mouthful of flames. And when you eventually take one down, you feel so victorious, and you're that much more powerful when you have a new shout to use in combat. These let you do things like knock back enemies with a forceful blast, use fire breath, or do a super fast dash. And other characters will start to revere you or fear you once you begin to fulfill your destiny as a Dragonborn. But unraveling that story is something we'll leave for you to discover. Final thoughts?
Definitely save often and manually, as there are a few bugs here and there, and it also helps out if you mess up a fight. There was promise of a day one patch at the time of recording, so hopefully that's corrected some of the issues. There's so much attention to detail in this world though, Hex, in every single part of it. I lost so much time here in a blink of an eye, and I think that's a sign of a well-made RPG. So I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
You know, after being a bit obsessed with Oblivion, I have to say Bethesda have delivered pretty much exactly what I wanted with a new Elder Scrolls game. I know I'll be lost in this game for ages and discovering new things and having discussions with all my friends about their discoveries. I just love this game. For me, it's an easy 10 out of 10 rubber chickens. Shh. Can you hear that? It's Nirnroot.